What inspired me mostly was the way that I grew up. My dad was a Marine, POW for close to 5 years in Japanese prison camps in China and in Japan. And what I never could understand when I was growing up was how he was always having to watch combat and Hogan's Heroes and all these war shows. And it bothered me terribly because I could understand why would somebody whose life was so altered by war want to be a part of that. And I just kind of grew up with this whole sense of not understanding war, why people engage in war, why people don't talk to each other, and just the effect that it had on people, you know, knowing what he went through. And PTSD was not, you know, a recognized thing until very late in his life. But yeah, and I think that just what I saw in the military of the whole breaking down people to build them up again, that also really got to me. So when it came to Vietnam and I saw what was going on and saw what was happening to people my age that were being sent off to war for a war that I thought, and obviously lots of other people felt was totally unjust and unnecessary, and one of those places we had no right to be. So I went to school in Mankato in 1965, and my late ex-husband was involved in anti-war stuff, and of course our friends were, so that's how I got involved. And then when we moved out to New York, I became really involved and sort of stayed involved the whole time that I was there. Well, initially it was just, like I started out in Wappingers Falls, which was outside of Poughkeepsie, and there was a pretty good anti-war movement going on there, so that, you know, was basically a lot of demonstrating going on, many trips to D.C. And then when I eventually ended up in Albany, I ended up doing draft counseling. Proud to say I got a lot of people out. And then when I went to Syracuse, I was also involved. And I should go back to in Albany, I was really active in the anti-war stuff too, going on the Albany State campus.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was kind of a long-term involvement. Shutting down draft boards and that sort of thing too, that was always fun. Well, it was interesting because at one point I decided that I was a pacifist. But when people tried to climb over me to get into a draft board, I thought if they want to kill that badly, you know, forget the pacifist stuff. So, yeah, it was interesting because, you know, the longer the war went on, you know, the more people understood why we were on the streets. And the other thing was that I started to meet, you know, people that were coming back and talking about their experiences and what they went through, and that just kind of intensified my involvement in justifying in my own mind too why I was doing what I was doing. And just using my dad as an example, in 1968 my brother was coming back from Europe, and the Democratic Convention was going on, and we decided they were still living in Minnesota, and they came back, or they came to New York to visit to greet my brother, and then I went down there too. And my dad made the comment, oh, they should line all those folks up and shoot them. Well, you know, by the end of the war, my dad was solidly against it and really wanted the people, you know, the soldiers to come home. Yeah, so we did change minds. Well, you know, I feel a lot of anger. I really do. That so many people died for no reason. You know, again, in a war that we had no right being in. And that anger kind of translates to, you know, when you see the images of soldiers by the wall and the emotion that they have. And I understand that. But that anger comes out in me because those people didn't have to die. And I really feel strongly that if someone is so strongly objected to something like war, they have an obligation to stand up and do whatever it takes to make sure that, things don't continue or happen again. I guess my feeling is that people all over the world need to start talking to each other. And when we start talking to each other, not making assumptions and presumptions about what other people think, how other people feel, then I think we can achieve peace. And because, just as another example, I'm involved with the Museum of Russian Art, and as a volunteer, and people that have been to Russia that come back and share their experiences all say what a wonderful time they had, how wonderful the people were to them. People are not governments. So, if people can talk to each other and start to understand each other, maybe there's hope for governments too. So that's my hope. Maybe we can end war that way,